you let that thing churn in your mind for some time before you come back to it.
So I've just come to the conclusion, or we've just come to this conclusion, that in India we are too over-obsessed with academics.
The cream of the world, they come and they talk about depression, and it is not an Indian problem. It's the problem, I think, in the whole sporting community. We glorify strength, we glorify hard work, and then we have nothing left for the people who could not perform. It's by invitation only, 11 people, depending on their past performance. So I was the 12th. And somebody backed off at the last moment, and they invited me.
Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of the OddCast Show. Making a career in sport is challenging, but our guests here today have made it big. Join me in welcoming Heena Sidhu, an Arjuna Award winner and the first Indian female shooter to achieve the global rank of #1. Joining her, we also have Ronak Pandit sir, who is her coach, her husband, and also the coach of the Indian shooting team. Namaste Ronak sir and Heena ma'am. Welcome to the OddCast Show and thank you for coming here today. I have so many burning questions to ask you guys, but one I'll ask you right now particularly. And that is that if I'm a physics enthusiast, I already know what my pathway is as a physicist. I need to study certain materials and then I need to go and get a degree and then boom, I'm a physicist. But what if I want to be an athlete? What is the pathway for that? I would love for you to explain your journey and your opinion on this question.
So thank you, Suved, for having us. It's a good question to start with. Actually, we get asked this a lot. So most of the people who start in a sport, they watch their icon or hero on the TV or read about them and they want to follow their path, or they end up visiting a sports facility, maybe watch a game with their friends or whatever, and they just fell in love with, we've heard so many stories of children just loving the sport when they saw it for the first time or following the footsteps of their icon. But to have a clear defined path, we're not there yet. So I wish there was a path defined that if you want to be a sportsman, if you want to be a cricketer, if you want to be a shooter, this is a school who excels in shooting. They have the best facility, they have the best equipment, they have the best coaches. And along with that, you also get to study and not neglect your studies too. But sadly, we do not have that kind of infrastructure or schools. Most of the students, they're just studying, paying attention on their academics, and sports is just there to support the academics. One games period now and then we tick a box. All the schools get to tick a box. Oh, we support sports and we have this infrastructure. But is that really supporting any sport? I don't think so. You need to have a system where if you spot talent, and that talent should be nurtured. And for that kid or that student or that athlete, the sport should come first, supported by academics, so that he can excel and give his best to the country where he excels. And not followed a set path and not becoming an average of everything and not excelling in one thing. So we need to spot talent and we need to nurture it. And everybody should know the pathway. If my child wants to become this, and where should I go to get him or her the best facilities and that money with least amount of money, so that it is affordable to everybody.
So see, unfortunately, there's no pathway to sport, and that's probably one of the reasons why, in spite of being a country of over 1 billion people, we're still longing for more than 2 or 3 Olympic medals in an Olympic cycle, in an Olympic Games. I think most things in our country, or rather in the world also, people are doing things for the sake of doing things. Nobody is really asking the question कि यार ये हम क्या कर रहे हैं, क्यों कर रहे हैं और इसको अच्छा करने के लिए क्या-क्या चीजों की जरूरत है. For example, until recently we were following laws which were made by the British.
Yeah.
Why? For so many years.
Yeah.
But now, so say, I'll give you my example. I picked up the sport accidentally, just by chance, really by chance. Accidentally, I got into the sport of shooting, and I happened to do reasonably well at the sport. But what if I had better talent for table tennis? What if I had better talent for badminton? I mean, I haven't been exposed to that. And why we as a country don't have systems in place where kids through their, at least the first 10, 12 years of a life are exposed to multiple things, not just sports, but, art and culture and so many different things where they could excel.
Yeah.
So ऐसी कोई चीज है ही नहीं. And and also because of that, people who also pick up a sport and excel at it very rarely end up reaching their potential, because there is no clear pathway. So log kya hota hai, everybody goes and they are trying to do well at the sport. Now, but for example, say if you are taking a simple example, say you want to run fast, you want to be a 100-meter sprinter.
Yeah.
Just by trying to run fast, you can't run fast. There are ancillary things, peripheral activities you need to do which will help you run fast. So you got to first sit down with a book and just, okay, I want to run fast, and how am I going to be able to run fast? What are the things that can help me in running fast? What are the experts I need to go to? What is, different things you need to plan out and then figure out whether that's available, not available, the finances that would be required to be able to achieve that, whether you have that or not. So ये सब plan करने के बाद में one can go ahead. But हमारे यहाँ people are just playing just because they want to play. But
correct.
to excel as an athlete,
We need to build the whole ecosystem ground up. We have certain things lying here, certain things, but the whole ecosystem has.
Yeah.
We need to build that. Talent hunting, supporting the talent from young age. Does not matter if they have money or not. Sponsors to support the talent, the good quality coaches to support it in a different way, and the teachers and the schools supporting them with academics. In the evening, subah kyun school lagna hai? School can be in the evening also.
Right.
They can play in the morning. Everybody needs to bring that ecosystem together, and then we can start expecting something.
So you two seem to be quite clear on your perspective regarding my question. So would you both be comfortable elaborating on your journey on this?
so I was a decent student at school, usually in the top 5 in my class.
Okay.
And sport was never really an option back then. So I'm talking about the early 90s. Like, sport was not an option. Sport was just going down and playing pakda pakdi.
Yeah.
That is the kind of era I come from. And once we were just traveling for a summer holiday, that April-May period, and my father also comes from the sport, and he had some work at the shooting range, and he happened to stop there just to keep the kids busy. He just told me to enter that competition. I participated in that competition, which was a state novices competition, a state level competition. And then next day, my father got a call saying, "Arey, your son got the gold and you didn't even attend the prize distribution ceremony." That's when he got to know that I did so well. मुझे तो पता ही नहीं था. And because I got that medal, then वो school में extracurricular activities के achievements दिखानी होती है, and then you get attention from your friends. So that's what hooked me on to shooting. Had I won a medal in athletics, I would have probably pursued athletics just because I got attention. I got hooked onto the attention. Who doesn't like attention?
Right.
But so that's how I picked up shooting. Now, one thing led to another because my dad was already into the sport. I had access to his equipment. So, policies at that time didn't allow us to import our equipment. Like, India does not manufacture shooting equipment.
Yeah.
So we need to import it mainly from Europe. Most of the top companies are there. So I think the first 4 or 5 international medals that I won were with my father's guns. It's like saying you won 4 or 5 international athletic, sprint races when your shoe size was 5 and you were wearing shoe size 8 of your father. That sort of a thing. So ye system raha hai. And along with that, one thing was very clear. Parents always said that jo bhi ho, sport mein you're doing well, but the moment we see your marks going down, your sport will be.
It's a red flag.
Yeah, it's a red flag, and band karna padega. So
that's one extreme. One extreme.
So, but in a way, I think it was good because it didn't give me a choice, this or that. I had to do this and that, and I think today I'm reaping the benefits of that. So that's how accidentally I got into the sport. But today, when I look at kids, everybody wants to play a sport to become Olympic champion.
Yeah.
अरे बाबा पहले देख तो लो तुम्हें वो sport पसंद भी है या नहीं. Like, people will come to the shooting range, parents will say मेरे बच्चे को Olympic champion बनाओ. अरे पहले जान तो लो shooting sport क्या है. उसमें क्या क्या चीजों के रिक्वायरमेंट्स है, अलग अलग इवेंट्स क्या होती हैं, वो कुछ अता पता नहीं, बस ओलंपिक चैंपियन बनना है. सो your whole start, the reason you start that journey is wrong. The reason you start sport should be because you love the sport. But if you start something because you want to become an Olympic champion, you will never end up becoming an Olympic.
Like I said, that this is one extreme कि अगर आपका if you don't do well in academics, हम आपका sports बंद कर देंगे. I met another kid, like this is how the world has changed in these past 20-30 years.
Yeah.
I met a child, not even 10, maybe 8, 9. I see him playing every day. He's playing football, and I ask him, where do you go? What school? Everything. He said, I go to this school. And I said, okay, how are the studies? Because I keep asking, I have a daughter now, I keep asking which school is like doing well. So that kid told me, I don't need to study that hard. I just need to pass. I'm a sports person.
He said that?
Yeah. And I was like, okay, this is another extreme. Like, if you have that kind of attitude that you're just gonna pass, that is the attitude you bring everywhere with you. That has become you. A sports person's job is to give the best in everything that you do. And you can't be a champion here and a loser there in your life. You know, a champion has an aura in everything that they do. They may not win, but they put in their best effort. So I heard that, and if my daughter ever says that to me, that's a red flag for me, that I didn't do something right with her. So this is where we have come now. So we have become an outcome-focused society when it comes to sports. We didn't support any of our sportsmen since these 20-30 years, but we want outcomes now.
Yeah.
Without giving an ecosystem, like I said, without paving a path for them. But we all want outcomes. This is where we are.
So speaking of pathways and outcomes, etc., we have traveled to certain universities in Europe, Australia, Japan. For example, Deakin University. You have the Nippon University in Japan. You have Loughborough University in the UK. And we actually wrote to these guys, and they were so forthcoming that they just invited us to stay at their universities. And we just wanted to explore that what's different overseas versus India. What's up with them, and what are their pathways? And while hanging around campus, we would just meet, people out there, athletes who are training. And we found out that those universities not only educate the kid, but they also provide them with the best of sporting infrastructure, all combined in one location. For example, we were just having lunch somewhere, and, we met this girl, and, we just asked her, what do you do? And she said, I'm a double England gold medalist for hammer throw, but I'm also learning to be a sports scientist. So they are already ahead of us in terms of looking at pathways for sport, where they're balancing their sporting life and ensuring that once that sports career is over, which is usually short-lived,
yes,
an athlete's career is over by the time he or she is, in their late 20s, and they have so much to give back to society. But unfortunately in India, because there is no system or no pathway for that, they end up defocusing on their education, not getting degrees, and then ending up in sporting careers which don't last long. And then at a very short age, at a very young age, they're left with nothing.
yes.
And they, I've seen so many athletes, end up as security guards in banks, or, ticket collectors if they're lucky, if they get a government job, etc. So I feel that, we found in our conclusion that, India is too over-obsessed with academics. We're producing too many engineers now who are not getting jobs. And we claim to be a nation of 1.4 billion people, but, there are no medals or results to show for that. So what is this obsession with academics? Why is this so much more in India versus other countries?
I think our whole education system needs to change. We need a revolution in our education system. We are making workers. We are not even educating in a very nice way, honestly telling you. A lot of research is showing that a lot of companies feel that a lot of kids that come out of colleges are not employable. They need to get extra skills. They need to get soft skills or something like that. So we are not having good quality workers also. And
so many engineers are unemployed.
Yes, so many engineers are unemployed. So there's something wrong with the education system. In today's world, if you can work from home, and now it's work from anywhere, right? A company sitting in India can hire somebody from USA.
Anywhere, yeah.
Anywhere. So why can't we study from anywhere? And why can't we have flexible systems now that we have the technology? We are no longer in 1980s or 1970s.
Especially for athletes.
Yes. Why is it not flexible? Why? This is exactly what I was talking about when I said that we need to create an ecosystem. For example, if this athlete that you gave an example of, she does well for the country and she wins medals, and after a while when she retires, she's going to use her knowledge of sports science and come back and work with other future athletes, and she's going to be paid handsomely, right? There's an ecosystem to support her as an athlete and support her as an employee of that sport.
A livelihood is there.
Correct. What do? We don't have student athletes, we have student athlete employees. After they win medals for our country, we give them DSP job, we give them this, we give them that. And what are they? They're not even 1%. Like 0.1 maybe. Looking at the pyramid, we need student athletes. We need schools where teachers and physical education teachers or coaches, everybody comes together and guides the children. What can they expect going further? Like we have these talent hunts in school, right? You will do well in medicine, looking at your grades. You can do well over here, looking at your maths grades, whatever. Nobody talks about sports. Whereas the talent in sport is so easy to spot.
Absolutely.
So easy to spot.
Yeah, I've always felt that, there is no better classroom than a playground.
Why don't we have like a exposure year after every 3-4 years of studies? Have an exposure year. 1 year we'll expose the kid to everything. To music, to a new instrument, to this sport, to that sport. We'll take them hiking, we'll do this. 1 year of exposure. That's also education, right? And then 2-3 years of doing this that you decided on. After your exposure, you found this thing that really calls out to you. And then after 3-4 years, we'll do an exposure again. Your dreams keep changing, your talents keep changing. So why don't we have things like this? And I'm sure that one school cannot provide everything. The government, what they can do in this district or in this municipal corporation, this school is doing this, the others will do this, the others will do this, and everybody will be exposed to these different facilities. Not every school has to come up with every facility. It's infrastructure.
They can be like probably for racket sports, these schools, for athletics, these track and field, these are the schools to go to, etc. Where they're actually being trained in that.
Yeah. So actually, this is one of my eventual life goals, that I want to set up a sports school. But I think first I would like to give some slack, some leeway to India as a country, because we have to understand that we are a very recent country. Like we got our independence 60-70 years back, and we had our different priorities. We were a poor nation. Our priority was to feed mouths, feed people, and then sport actually comes as a recreation, as a rich man.
It's looked at that.
नवाबों के basically शौकिया, right? So पहले तो पेट भरने की जरूरत थी, but I think अब तो काफी पेट भर चुका है. Now what we need to do is we need to think. Like I said, I mean, what's happening is हम बस every day we get up from our beds. Now that has to change. कि हाँ, in 1980s, 1990s, Indian athletes were not that good and we needed foreign help. But why are we not becoming self-sustaining? मोदी जी आत्मनिर्भर भारत करे तो आत्मनिर्भर हमें हर चीज में बनना है. इसमें, and we have diamonds within us. We just need to stop for a while, think, restructure, and then start.
So since you have spoken about the education system and you have mentioned that you are parents now, I would love to ask you to explain how your grades were like in school and what would you do if your daughter comes and says that I want to be an athlete now. How will you know how far to let her go into that realm of sport to see if she can make it as an athlete or not?
We'll try to not fight on this answer.
No, for me, she can choose to be whatever she wants to be. The only thing is that once you decide, or you may decide 10 things, I want to do this, and this. Even that's fine, right? It's her decision. But you cannot do things half-heartedly. That's the only thing. Do it right. Ask for help. Collaborate with people. Ask 1,000 different questions. Learn by making mistakes. Make mistakes. If she makes mistakes and comes back and says, you know what, this is what I learned, and next time I'm going to do this better. That's it. That's all I want to hear, to know that she can have a lasting career in sports. That's it. And for anything in life, I mean, if you can learn from your mistakes, that's it. What else do you
But
need?
there, I just want to interrupt over there and say that why I keep saying that there is no better classroom than a playground is because sport is the only activity that teaches you about failure
Yes.
and how to deal with it.
Yeah.
In academics today, in any world over, if you fail, you failed.
Yeah.
It's over. You get probably one chance to, come back into that class or whatever and, pass, otherwise you're gone.
Yeah.
Whereas sport keeps teaching you that, okay, you fall, you get up. You see others falling, you get up. And that's why I've always felt that, we've always felt that, sport has to be an integral part of your education process. Because without that, you're only with your blinders on and just learning ABC.
Yeah.
And X plus Y is equal to this or 2 plus 2 is
Yeah,
equal to
It's
4.
your personality development. It's your character development.
Yeah.
That's something you will learn through sport. And I think, look at the other side of sport. It's very brutal. So see, for example, now say you want to become a physicist. So you're studying physics. You will finish. You will get X whatever grades. Now whether those grades are 70, 80, 90, 95, 99, it doesn't matter. You will do some kind of work. And someone who has not done that well, a mid-level company will hire him. कुछ ना कुछ उसका हो ही जाएगा. But sport में क्या होता है? Sport में you either win or lose. There's no such thing कि अच्छा first वाले को तो चलो ये benefits मिल जाएंगे, third, fourth वालों को ये मिल जाएगा, fifth, sixth वालों को वो मिल जाएगा. So most things in life are just about being above a certain threshold. That's what we call pass class. 35%, 40%, 50%, जो भी है. As long as you're above that, you are going to sail through. In sport, if you're 100, then you may get lucky because there are 10 more people along with you who are getting 100. 99 to bhul hi jao. So look at the brutal aspect of sport.
But that's a great teacher in life.
It's a great teacher in life, yeah, because आपको 99 जब आया, you did well but you couldn't win. Okay, what was the missing link? You go and you do it again. The reason you do it again is because you love sport. In Rocky 3, there's that the song Eye of the Tiger, and there's this one line in that song which says you change your passion for glory. I use this line for all of my athletes. If you see an athlete's trajectory, career trajectory, the first year, second year, the athlete will just rise like this. The next star. उसके 1-2 साल बाद आप देखो उड़ चुका होता है. Very few come back from that fall, and who come back then stay permanently, because the reason they reached there was because they pursued the sport because they had the passion for the sport. So they were trying to excel, right? अब एक बार जीत गए, so now they just want the glory. They don't want
that hard work again.
So अब वो बस जीतना at any cost. नहीं जीते तो नखरे, excuses. You stop being honest with yourself, and then you fall. So I think that's the biggest lesson sport teaches you, that do something because you like it. And if you like it, then failures are just a stepping stone to get better.
So since you have brought up this topic of having a certain set of emotions towards whatever you're doing, not just sports, I would love for you both to explain how did you all deal with your emotions throughout the journey?
So yeah, see, I think no athlete has ever had only, like, even if you say, take a case of the world champions or the Olympic champions, nobody's had a path full of roses. People see their achievements. People don't see the hard work that has gone behind that achievement, and it's cruel the way we treat ourselves. It's extremely cruel, and most human rights commission will probably stop you from playing only. बोलेंगे ये क्या कर रहे हो अपने साथ? But that's how hard we are, and if we are not, we'll not reach that excellence. So at a very early age, I gave up the sport because जब तक I lost intrinsic motivation, because अपने आप पे जैसे system भी क्या था कि I was doing well, and that motivates you to keep doing well, to keep putting in the efforts, right? But then there are times in your life when you start, you're going through different phases of life, and then when you are in your early 20s, you see your friends passing out of college and getting campus placements and getting jobs and starting to make money, and you are this 21, 22-year-old who's got good grades, who's got this bag full of medals, but then the reality hits you कि खाना क्या खाओगे? You're not going to sell that medal and get money of that, because at the end you need roti kapda makan, right? That's what the basic necessities are. And then that, for example, in my case, that hit me so hard, I was just कि जाना ही क्यों है range पे? It's not getting me anything. Okay, I have won so many medals, ये वो मेरा आगे potential ये होगा, talent ये होगा, but at the end, what am I going to get out of it?
What's going to feed you?
Exactly, what's going to feed me? And I was very clear with certain wants in my life. I don't want to be an Olympic champion but live a very humble life. No, I was very clear with what I want, and I think it's my own choice, and I want to have a certain standard of living, and for that, sport could not have at least in those days could not have been the means for it. So then I had to simply at the age of 22.
But if you were an Olympic champion, you would have been.
But the risk associated.
But that is if you make it as an
the
Olympic.
probability of it happening.
The problem is in a country like ours, unless you make it.
So that's how this emotional ups and downs keep happening, because you keep comparing your state with the rest of the athletes, rest of the sport.
And in Heena's case, it's also what I understand is that when you became world number one and you shot that winning shot, and after that you were declared world number one, you would coming back to emotions, if I were you or any other human being on this planet became world number one in their sport which they've trained for all their lives, they would be happy, they would be partying, they would be talking to all their relatives and showing off all those things, but you were depressed and you went into depression. Are you okay to talk about that?
Yes. Not because of that. That day I was just crying after coming back. I was not happy crying though. I was crying that actually I was not supposed to go to that tournament. It's by invitation only, 11 people, depending on their past performance. So I was the 12th. And somebody backed off at the last moment and they invited me. So I happened to have the visa, so I went there. I competed, I won this thing. The reason I was crying was that if that girl hadn't dropped out, this would not have happened to me. Like, how close was I to missing this happening to me? And my mind could not understand the math behind it. Like, the whole year I performed so well. I went to 3 finals with amazing qualification score, and my finals used to be my my strong point. And all the 3 finals that I went to previously, I was the first one to be eliminated. The rules had changed and I was not coping with the new rules. So we were working on the finals, but I was not supposed to go to this competition. I went there because somebody else didn't go, and I go there and I do so well in the finals that I made a world record. That was such a humbling thing for me that I didn't know what else to do than to cry. I didn't know how to celebrate this.
No, and I remember
it felt like, I cheated to be here, even though I didn't. Like, I wish that girl was also here so I could compete with her as well. And then I would say, now I have won it fair and square. So that was the reason. It still
But you did go through many bouts of depression, which is what I want to get into, is because as we've spoken to so many athletes and they suffer so much. Like you were talking about, the journey to become a world number one or to become an accomplished athlete is so cruel and brutal, where you're away from family, you can't go out with your friends, you can't go to a movie and have popcorn, there are diet restrictions, there are cell phone restrictions, social media restrictions, there's so many things that you go through, and you're just on your own. So what sort of support system does India have in terms of battling mental health for athletes?
Sadly, it's not just India, it's the whole world. We have seen cases of the likes of Simone Biles coming and talking about depression.
Michael Phelps has talked about it.
Yes, the top of the top, the cream of the world. They come and they talk about depression, and it is not an Indian problem. It's the problem, I think, in the whole sporting community. We glorify strength, we glorify hard work. And then we have nothing left for the people who could not perform, right? And the thing is that he's a coach. He knows that a lot of coaches, they don't know what to say to athletes who have lost. You can't mollycoddle them. You can't push them too much. What is that balance where you teach them how to learn and be humble, but also have friends, have family, have a support system, have a normal human experiences in your life beyond sports? A lot of coaches are like, turn off your phone, turn this off, no friends, no family. Okay, in certain cases, you need to do that. But how long can you sustain it? You can't sustain it for 10 years. You can't sustain it for 20 years. You can sustain it for a few months.
It's
So
like-
you need to have a system which is sustainable, which gives you predictable results, and which can be followed by every athlete happily, and so that whatever investment we do on this athlete is not wasted because we pushed him too hard and he went into depression.
See, look at it this way also, that winner gets it all.
Absolutely.
Okay? And when winner gets it all, everyone is so busy with him. Second wale ki effort could have been more than the winner, but nobody is asking the guy who came second, right? So, and now reality hits him कि पूरी जिंदगी लगा दी स्पोर्ट में, वहां तो कुछ हुआ नहीं, and now what next in life?
अब मैं क्या करूं?
And look at this. To be so, let's take an average across sports. I think something like a 16 to 25 is your peak age. Then some sports like shooting, okay, you know, at 35, 37, you could be the best in the world, but mostly early 20s is what it is. That's the time when you're supposed to choose your academic career path and, you know, all of those things जहाँ पे आगे आपका career set होगा. वो सारा time आपने लगा दिया sport में, ठीक है? By the time you realize out of say 100,000 people doing shooting in this country, only 10 are going to make a life out of shooting. The remaining 99,990 shooters are going to get out into the world with zero skills, with zero education, with no degree. So now you think of it this way कि आज अगर इंडिया में 10 लाख लोग स्पोर्ट कर रहे हैं, India is going to have every year 99% of those people who are going to be unemployable, unskilled
And unhappy.
That's when also depression will hit you. कि अरे अब मैं लाइफ में क्या करूं? कि जब तक स्पोर्ट में थे, life was very different. There was no, I would say, okay, there is some sort of structure, but it's not like the academic structure or the corporate life structure या सुबह 9 से 5 ऑफिस जाना है, ये सब ऐसा नहीं होता. So a lot of these other parts of life hit you and you're not able to cope up with it. So sport itself goes up there, and then after sport, so you're really like on a different planet.
It's so brutal.
Yeah.
Which is why I will ask you now that despite being big athletes also, there are, like my dad said, that most of them end up on the road, or if they're lucky, they may get a government job like a ticket collector. How did you both, being professional athletes, make it after retiring?
I mean, it's an odd story because the way what we've discussed so far is that, you know, most of the athletes are unemployable after their sporting careers or over at a very young age. But you guys are shining examples that, you know, how you all have made a living out of the sport, and you're still playing it, you're still coaching it, and, you know, you guys are making a living out of it. So, you know, we want our listeners to understand that, you know, how did you guys do that?
I think it has everything to do with our education. In fact, research shows that economically, your workforce quality improves multifold if they have been involved in sporting activity in their formative years. So that has a direct correlation with increase in GDP of the country as well. So any intelligent country would try to incorporate education along with sports in the formative years because it teaches them loyalty, it teaches them trust, it teaches them leadership qualities that actually make our workforce
Which
unemployable.
translates into, yeah.
You would have addressed it much better in the formative years. And the GDP, this thing was, I think, like 4% improved. Like in some report I read this. So that made me wondering that, yes, you know, a sports person, if given a good quality education, is better at adapting to changing circumstances, is humble, is very hardworking, is a team player, is a learner throughout. Because what have we learned? We've learned only to listen to a coach and do what he says, right? A sports person is a student through and through. You know, you need to be in a learning frame of mind to perform. And then they have the grit and the determination to go and get their goals. You know, imagine these kind of things in your workforce.
Yeah, like I said, you know, if I, you know, I mean,
So-
like, they, you know, I would always say that young athletes who are at the end of their careers, they have so much to offer to the
Yes.
country and to corporate life.
Yes, the only thing that they don't
They're
have is
unemployable.
the education bit, na?
Correct.
So do the sports and education together. Schools must do it. Not just school, the colleges also. Because schools mein kya hota hai na, you only expose them to different sports. By the time they actually find out this is the sport I want, and now I've started excelling, I've started winning national medals, I'm even going to the Olympics, would be in their early 20s or late teens. You know, that is the time they would be in colleges. So if the schools are supporting but the colleges are not, then also we have a problem. So it has to be through and through till the university level.
But no, so see, now this is again, I would say, oddcast, this is that odd thing that I'm going to throw in now. So when people say sport, one of the biggest things, biggest qualities you need to succeed is perseverance. Perseverance can also be the reason for your failure in life.
Yeah.
Think how.
Yeah, you need to know when to
You need to know when to stop.
Yeah.
When you're burnt out.
You need to know when to stop, and the only time you will know when to stop is when you are in connect with yourself.
Yeah.
If you can't listen to your own voice, तो यार तुमसे ज़्यादा गुमशुदा और कौन है? So you have to be very, I would say smart about it. You have to be intelligent about it. You have to be ruthless about it. You have to be honest about it. So at 22, when I decided to quit, something inside me told me, you will be good, but what it takes to be the best, वो तेरे से नहीं होगा. Something inside me told that to me. And in a couple of months, I paid heed to it. Because time is ticking away. Okay, time is ticking away, and if you don't listen to yourself and take the right steps at the right time, you would have lost that opportunity as well. So I would say perseverance and all is very good, but you have to be smart. You should know when to cut your losses. And always remember that, yaar, how do you know? Like I said, कि मैंने तो shooting ली, but I could have been a better badminton player.
Yeah.
How do I know a better life awaits me outside my sporting world? So my answer to everything will come down to one or 2 points. One is you change your passion for glory, and the other is boss, रुक जरा सोच क्या कर रहा है, क्यों कर रहा है, और इसको बेहतर करने के लिए कोई और तरीका है क्या? 3 साल पहले तुझे लग रहा था कि जो तू कर रहा है, जो तुझे करना चाहिए वो सही था. Does it hold true today? The world is changing. The only person who's going to survive is who knows how to adapt. So boss, just keep stopping, just keep checking. Are you in the right direction? Are you in the right place at the right time? All of those things. So 22 pe when I changed my career path from being an athlete to a coach in a sport like shooting, this was in the year 2008. I mean, how many shooters were there in the country? You would go to the national championship and there used to be probably 800 shooters in the national championships. तो कोई था ही नहीं. तो कोई मेरे को बोलेगा यार you are catering to an industry which doesn't exist. And वो भी coaching industry. वो time पे coaches कौन होते थे? You would have this coach living in a chawl, coming by train, wouldn't have money to even pay for the cab. That's the fact. At that time, coaches का ये था. And मैं निकला था बनने की नहीं. Why not? Like, if you do good work, why not? Let's see. So, एक बड़ी गलती क्या हो जाती है sports persons की, that हमें, because we've gotten so comfortable in that setting, in that environment, in that sport, that it's not easy to get out of that industry, so to say. So I thought कि यार चलो, let's be in shooting, but get to the other side of shooting. So let's transition to coaching where I can add value. And I would go to the range and I would see so many. I was myself a youngster, but I would see so many other youngsters who were wasting their time. And for me, time was always of big value. Okay, when you go to a school or when you go and hand over your kid to a coach, you're trusting that guy or that institution with the life of your child. How can you not do a background check on that? Aaj bhi 99% of the coaches who are in our country are running without merit, without proper education, without proper experience.
I call them self-declared coaches.
Coaching batches. And this you're talking about across sport.
It's like I am declaring myself the PM of India. How can I?
Yeah, अरे मतलब दुकान खोल के बैठे हैं जहाँ पे वो कोच बन गए हैं. कभी खुद उन्होंने शूटिंग नहीं की होगी, कभी खुद उनको कोई शूटिंग का नॉलेज नहीं है. बट वो चला रहे हैं एंड वो चलाएं. बट मैं ये बोलता हूँ कि बट पेरेंट्स इतने बेवकूफ कैसे हो सकते हैं कि भाई जाके एक अनप्रोवन पर्सन के पास आपने अपने बच्चे का करियर सौंप दिया एक तरह से. So at least I thought कि मेरे पास वो integrity है, I have that knowledge and all those things. I should make good use of it.
Ronak, we have a YouTube coach now who's telling the viewers, listen to Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge songs while you're shooting, because that beat is so good.
Yeah,
it will help you be in the zone and hit tens after tens. Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge.
Have they hit 10 on 10s, the students?
So I have been waiting for you both, sir and ma'am, for talking about hard work and perseverance, which is something that not just athletes go through, but I as a student, speaking on behalf of a lot of students who go through difficult fields, go through this one phase called burnout, where you're doing the same thing again and again, repetition. And you must have been through that by going through the same workout again and again. How do you balance your emotions for that? And what are your thoughts on getting out of burnout?
You have to have balance in life for anything.
Yeah.
बचपन में सिखाया था कि have a balanced diet. Your body can't run on just protein is good for you, fat is good for you, carb is good for you, but it has to be a balance. Basically, in anything in life, whether you are in the field of education, in the field of in a corporate job or anything, if you don't satisfy every requirement of your being, you're not going to excel. So even in sport, we say that technical training is not the only thing. You have to be physically fit, you have to be mentally fit, you have to be technically strong. Your work-life balance should be good. So we have this thing called your environment around you. Okay. So अगर सारी चीजें सही नहीं है, and the finances required to run that, because see, that's a very important part of our life, the finance. अगर वो सब चीज सही नहीं है, you will not be able to reach the top. So you have to be mindful and consciously yourself balance things out. A very wrong notion that we have is aram haram hai. Then those 10,000 hours of doing something. No, this is not true. You have to, and that is where, how do you expect a 14, 15, 16-year-old kid to understand kitna sahi hai mere liye? When should I stop? So everything again comes down to the need of having experienced people from those industries in place who will guide the next generation that this is enough for you. Anything more than this is going to break you. So But
for a teenager who's going through a burnout, like what can they do? Like
sometimes the best thing to do is to leave, because if you are holding sand in your hand and the more you squeeze, the more sand is going to go out of your hand. So even like for me, as a coach, what I tell my shooters is, when you are doing well, you will not see me around you. When you are not doing well is when you will see me around you, because that's when you need me, right? So that is the time the coach needs to be around and assess whether the person is having, so if the person is not doing well, is obviously because of a technical imperfection. But is that technical imperfection arising out of poor technique, or is it arising because he's not able to focus anymore, or if his body is not able to support his technical implementation,
or he's an
anymore?
emotional wreck because he's having bad relations or something like that.
At home.
Yeah.
But But right now, where the world is going, I don't want to make it very fancy. Taking a rest and recovery, R&R. Everybody is doing an R&R. Without even deserving an R&R. Everybody is putting pictures on Instagram, and the other person who sees the picture, oh, I feel like a holiday. What have you done to deserve a holiday? What I feel for youngsters, they need to understand that willpower and motivation, like everything else, is like a muscle that can be trained, and training takes time. The thing is that most of the people feel that now that I've thought, my willpower is just like out of the roof, and I will just sit and I will not move away till this is done. But then slowly they realize that it won't happen, and then they give up, because they had such high expectations of themselves that the reality was so far off. Now they don't want to do it anymore, because they see the difference. But you can eat an elephant one bite at a time, right? You tell yourself, this is my limit today. This is the willpower I had for today. You may be going through other emotional problems in your life. You may be having financial difficulties. You may be going through 1,000 things, right? This is the willpower I have today itself. I am going to do the most important thing first, and then do the least important thing in the end. And then when I feel I'm done, I will take an R&R. make sure that next time I come back, I can give that 5 minutes extra. Because that's how you build a muscle, right? You break it and you build it. You break it, you build it. You go till the breaking point and then you build it. You build your willpower that way, you build your motivation that way. But you need to know when to stop. So that R&R is work itself. So your rest and recovery is in itself work that you're doing in order to achieve your goals.
The rest and recovery is part of training, like technical training and like physical training. The rest and recovery is a very integral part, a very integral reason because of which you will eventually win.
But it's being misused.
Yeah,
It's being misused.
and rest and recovery also needs planning,
Yeah,
right? If
Yes.
you're taken an off, but you're pumping dopamine into your system by just going scrolling on social media,
Yeah.
that's not rest and recovery. You go sleep, go for a jog, exercise.
So see, again it comes
Go
from
for a cold bath. These are the things that would help you, and then come back. Okay, where did I leave? What was so challenging back
Come
then?
back stronger.
Yes, make a plan in your head. Okay, this is where I left it off. What can I do better? Do I need to ask somebody for a help? You let that thing churn in your mind for some time before you come back to it.
So since you have spoken about some of the symptoms that we should look out for to avoid going into a place that may be very difficult to come out of, it could be, you can call it burnout, you can call it whatever, which is why I will now ask you, sir and ma'am, what are your thoughts on people developing health issues? And that means physical, mental, and any kind of health issues. Like, because when I was also a shooter as a kid, and I was told to quit at the age of 8 because I could develop health issues like some spinal injuries, which could make me wheelchair bound for the rest of life, or it could develop hernia. Have you all ever encountered such cases in shooting ever?
Yes. So we come across overzealous parents. Like I said, they just want to come and भाई इसको कल Olympic champion बना दो. भाई सभी कोशिश कर रहे हैं उसका. But if I don't have the knowledge, and where does that knowledge come from? Education, science. कि बस इस sport की requirement, physical requirement ये है, and up to this age, the kid is generally not ready to cope up with those requirements. I shouldn't allow the kid to enter my academy, right? So for example, for me, it's clear. Generally, we say 12 is when we would admit a kid in pistol shooting. अगर किसी को करना ही है तो 10 onwards करेंगे, but then we don't make them stand and shoot, we make them sit and shoot and all of those things. But वो knowledge कहाँ से आएगी? जब तक आपने if you don't have that education, वो knowledge आपके पास कहाँ से आएगी? And then you will end up ruining the career of that kid. So everything again comes down to before you become a coach, because that becoming a coach is such a big responsibility. You are playing with somebody's life, you're playing with somebody's career, that if you've not equipped yourself with the right knowledge, you are really gambling with somebody's
You're actually
life.
doing a disservice.
Yeah,
to
gambling
everyone.
with somebody's life.
You're doing a disservice to yourself, to the country, to
Yes.
all the parents and their kids.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Absolutely. There's no doubt on that. So coming to another point where I just want to just probe you a little bit on this. Like you mentioned, being a coach, you need to be equipped with so many things. Unfortunately, in India, we have had sports ministers who have never played a sport.
Yeah.
We have had education ministers who are not even educated in the past. And we've seen a lot of things go wrong because of that. And like you mentioned at the start, the education system itself needs an overhaul, where, you are inculcating lots of other life skills also into your developmental phase as a child. And I don't want you all to get into trouble with the federations, etc. But I've seen that the federations are also mostly full of people who have made it their fiefdoms.
Yeah.
Where they are just sitting on the chair and, they never let go. So what is it about this mentality? Because it's so detrimental to the development of future athletes and all that. There is so much of selection bias, etc. in team sports, etc. Do you still see this happening in federations?
You remember the 2012 incident before the Olympics?
Let's not get into incidents. I don't like getting into incidents. I like to look at it from top, like
So
a balcony
are we
view.
in an era now where things are changing? I'll rephrase the question.
Things are definitely better. I wanted to say that, that's human nature. If I am being treated like a queen, why will I want to step down? Right?
Absolutely.
It's only there has to be rules, there has to be regulations, there has to be systems. That is something that will hold me accountable to 1,000 people, I have to answer to them. But if you do not have that system in place where you hold people responsible, that we have spent so much money on you, or we have given you so much support, where are the results? And if the results don't happen, what are the consequences? Like, there has to be consequences in life. You know, there are a lot of consequences for athletes.
Yeah.
Right? That's what
Absolutely.
we've been discussing
Careers
about.
are over.
Now let's go to the other side. What are the consequences for non-athletes?
Nothing.
Nothing. What is the consequence for this athlete's coach? The athlete gave this coach 10 years of his or her life. He may not have won the medal, but that coach goes on to the other athlete and the other athlete and the other athlete, without parents ever asking questions like, where have you studied from? What medals have you won, not won? Taking a report from the coach, what is my kid doing, not doing, and then assessing like what is there is no consequence for anybody else. The consequences are only for athletes.
But do you see this?
Accountability
But
needs
you
to-
mentioned that there are certain changes, things are
Yes,
changing.
it's
What is
much
that
better.
change? What is that change?
So if I look at it again from a balcony view, we have more sponsors today. We have better financial support in every sphere of sporting this thing. We have better support staff. The newer generation of athletes have a different mindset. They actually go there to win. Back in our days, that we were happy with giving a good performance as a participation, because we never had that kind of confidence. Oh my God, we are playing against them, we are playing against them. But athletes today have that mentality that they're going out to win.
This is a new India.
Yes, this is new India. The coaches are paid better than say 20-30 years back. The coaches have more respect today than 20-30 years back. The parents, let's talk about the parents. The parents are very happy putting their kids in any sport. पढ़ाई छोड़ के भी sport करवाने को तैयार है. Now we are in the other extreme. Like I'm
And
telling
of course, we need to have that balance.
we
of
need,
both.
you need to
percentage,
have
but
that
yeah.
balance. We need to have that balance. You cannot completely ignore education, because education also helps in the sport. How are you going to understand the requirements of this? A lot of sportsmen who are doing very well, the top of the top, they are very smart people. You know, you need to be smart, you need to be intelligent, you need to be able to connect dots and find those connections, because sport is science when we talk about it, but the execution is all art. And for that art to flow out of you, you need to have a very in-depth knowledge of yourself, the sport, the tools. So only a smart person can do that, and you need to be holistically trained in every way in your formative years. Like, we keep coming back to that. Yes.
You know, so over the years, we have changed at a very slow pace. I mean, we should have improved and become almost perfect, so to say, probably 10 years back. But I think everything comes down to the political will. This government has a political will to do well in sports. Because of that, they are ensuring that there is transparency and there is performance. Performance is being demanded.
And accountability.
Yeah.
Which
Now,
is
because
what was
performance-
absent before.
Totally absent. Now, because it's like from
Because
the
there's
PMO
no
level,
support now. When you're not giving the support, how can you demand quality?
you can only wish for it.
Yeah. Now
today-
that you are supporting,
But today, from the
you
PMO
also demand
level,
that
there
quality.
is a clear directive that we have to do well. Now, to do well, you need performance. Performance, अगर नहीं आई या आने के लिए accountability तो चाहिए ही है. So, because of that, now slowly things are changing. Things are becoming more transparent. So, that ways things have changed because the political will of the government. When I was an athlete, I remember the government didn't even care. The government, like, I have won the gold medal in Commonwealth Games, silver medal in the Asian Games. In that Commonwealth Games and Asian Games cycle, Maharashtra say not even 5 athletes had won those medals. 5, हो सकता है I would probably be the only one जिसने Commonwealth Games और Asian Games दोनों में तभी medal लिए थे. But I didn't receive a single letter of congratulation or anything of that sort. I didn't get a single penny from the government for my achievements and all of those things. But today, if you see, Modi ji, before we depart for a competition, he's there to ensure that we are well motivated. I remember post Tokyo.
Everybody wants to feel heard,
Absolutely.
seen.
Be
That's a
acknowledged.
basic
And I will give you this
psychology.
one.
We want to be heard and seen.
I'll talk to you about this one idea he had said, and I was absolutely mesmerized by it. After Tokyo, we had our welcome this event and all of those things, and there he told us that the government has given you exposure to sports science, nutrition, physical training, technical training, and all of
Sports
those
psychology.
things. Psychology. And if each one of you can go to one school and address 100 kids on your experience on why nutrition is important, why being fit is important, why being healthy is important, all of those things. And if even 10 out of those 100 kids get motivated or, improve their lifestyle because of you, just look what a chain reaction you can create. And I was like, why
Such a simple thing.
Such a simple thing. And had we been doing this, we would already be a sporting giant. Like, this girl who was studying sports science along with being a two-time
gold medalist.
Yeah. So this is what we need, a chain reaction.
So, I mean, like, I'm just so mind blown by so many things.
So, ma'am, I have a question for you where a lot of popular athletes, after they reach a certain level of popularity, end up being in the middle of a controversy. And sometimes they are unable to handle the backlash on them if it ever comes. Have you ever been in the middle of such a controversy? And if you have, what is your advice to some athletes who may be going through something like that?
I faced something similar, but not of a very large scale. I was supposed to go to this competition, Asian Air Weapon Championship in Iran back in 2014. And I chose not to go there, even though I was the defending champion in that competition. So the reason being that Iran has this law that anybody that enters Iran has to wear a hijab and has to dress in a particular way. In fact, you need to follow that the moment the plane is in the airspace, the announcement is made.
Really?
Yes. And so for me, this was not the surprising bit. The surprising bit was that even as an athlete, you're supposed to do that on the field of play. Now, that was something that was difficult for me to digest as a sports person. So, you having a rule or a law for the tourists or the civilians of your country is a different thing. But on the field of play, that goes against what I understand of sport. What I think of sport is that this is something which is pure. It's not like I love my daughter, I can take my talent out and infuse it into her, or everybody has to earn their place in the world of sport, and everybody is there to work hard, and there's no place for your caste, for your gender, where you come from, rich, poor, however you are, you have to compete on equal terms. Religion, there's no place for religion in sports, and by doing something like this, you are just tainting something that is still pure in this world. That's something that you have to fight for and strive for to achieve. So if that didn't go down well with me, so I got into this mixed thing, because during that time Sushma Swaraj also went to Iran and she abided by the rules. So a lot of people ask me that if she can do it, why can't you? I said, if I was going there for my country, I would have done it. Because I'm not taking decision for myself, I'm taking decision for millions more. And it is my job to do what is required to get, to represent them in the best way and get something fruitful out of this communication or dialogue. But I was going there as an individual athlete. Even if I was a team athlete, I would have talked to my team members like, guys, I don't think this goes well. This goes with
the sanctity of the sport.
Yes, with the sanctity of the sport. But if the majority are deciding, I will put my head down, because that's also sportsmanship, to stand up for your team, right? So what she did is also sportsmanship. She stood for the whole country. and I stood for my ethics as an individual. So you have to look at them both in different lights.
Was there a backlash?
No, I was asked a lot of questions. I think maybe there was not a backlash. Like there were a lot of questions. There were like if the other girls can do it, so there were other girls who went in my place. Why can't you? So I said they are going. That's their ethics. That they feel that representing or participating in a sport is more important than standing up to something like this. They're looking at it from a different angle. I'm looking at it from a different angle. To each his own. That was my definition of sport. It didn't go well with my principles, so I backed out.
So I have a question that, we've talked on the show about so many things about, there are the lack of pathways for sport, etc. in India. And, there are so many challenges and obstacles that one has to overcome to become an athlete. And despite that, you both, pursued your sporting careers. You turned into a coach. You became her coach. You also currently are the Indian shooting team coach. And you're still pursuing your sporting career in shooting. And you all have actually made a comfortable living out of it. You all have managed that, despite all these challenges that we have been talking about. So I think that's something that, our audience would like to take away, we would like to take away as, avid, sports enthusiasts. And I'm sure a lot of current and future athletes is going to benefit from your answers. So how did you do this, and what's your advice to people out there?
So I think my advice would be that education is non-negotiable, because it's not कि पढ़ाई लिखाई करनी है to get some marks and get a degree. No, it's to equip yourself with some basic knowledge, which also teaches you how to think, which also it widens your horizons. It it gives you ability to think. It will not only help you in your sport. It will. So it's like, today you have this thing. People think कि अगर sportsman बनना है तो पूरा ध्यान sports में लगाओ and you specialize in sport. But data says that at the highest level, when you reach the top level, then yes, maybe specialization can help. But to reach the highest level, you need to diversify and equip yourself with maximum skills, right? तो अगर आपको sport में भी अगर अच्छा करना है, your sport also will require you to be intelligent. And that intelligence, that knowledge will come from education. So that education, you should educate yourself to also be good at your sport. So एक तो number one because of that. तो लोगों को क्या लगता है कि नहीं, अगर दिन में 10 घंटा सिर्फ शूटिंग ही करेंगे या स्पोर्ट्स ही खेलेंगे तो इंप्रूव करेंगे, नहीं. बट वो आप अगर 5 घंटा स्पोर्ट खेलोगे और 5 घंटा पढ़ाई करोगे, you would probably be better.
Better at both.
Skills.
You would probably end up better at both.
Yes.
Yeah, I think, you guys are a shining example of, what is the right way or the right pathway, despite there being no pathways. You all have actually shown and created a pathway that how this is the way it should be done. For example, I'm hearing now when we conversed before we started shooting the show, that Heena is also planning to pursue an MBA right now. So that's just great to know that, that there are so many, that you guys are thinking in the right direction. And I think that's the biggest takeaway that I have got from this episode. And I'm sure our listeners also will love all this, that, that there are athletes out there today in India who are looking at careers beyond sport, through the sport, and making a living out of it. Yeah. So that I think is wonderful. And, I would really, it's thankful to you all to being on this show. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
And I hope this session was intriguing for you all.
Yes, yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes.